Chapter -3, Surrounded. Cass wasn't sure she heard the jester correctly. Really? You don't know the secret? I promise, I don't know the secret. I never heard of a secret, said the jester. You are the invisible girl. You are the time traveler. You are the only secret I know, and I should be asking you for the secret. Yes, unfortunately she heard him correctly. She was Chesterfallen. Here she'd been come so far to ask him the question, and he didn't know the answer. He seemed barely to understand the question. Her mission was a failure. Beyond that, her role in the Trace Society as a whole purpose of her life would now be in jeopardy. How could she be the secret keeper if she didn't know the secret to keep? She glanced around the woods as if the secret might be hidden behind the tree, but she saw nothing more illuminating than a porcupine sitting on a rock. But what about the Trace Society? She persisted. You're the founder of the Trace Society. The whole point of the Trace Society is to protect the secret. It's the secret society of the secret. Sorry, I know nothing about any secret society. If I am the founder, I have not founded it yet. Well, what about my parents? Who are they? Asked Cass, increasingly desperate. At least you must know that. I've come all this way to find out who I am. I thought you knew. All that I know is I'm supposed to be the secret keeper. And if you come from the future, how could you know who your parents are? You haven't been born yet, said the jester with indubitable logic. It makes no sense. Even a fool like me can see that. You're serious. You don't know anything. I don't understand. Jester shook his head, muttering, either you are not here after all, or I am nothing more than a madman talking to the wind. Or you have been sent on a purpose to make me go mad. It is all the same either way. Cass slumped again on a tree trunk. I can't believe I came all this way for nothing. What am I supposed to do now? She tried to choke back a sob, but failed. Oh, come. Oh, it can't be so bad as that, said the jester, the sound of her crying had shaken him. Where are you? Give me your hand so I may pat your head. Reluctantly, Cass nudged him on the arm. Right there you are. You can't keep moving around like that. It's disorienting me. Now there. He patted the invisible head, as promised. How is that? I have not much experience comforting little children, only making them laugh until they get tired and cross. When they start crying, I send them away. 'Tis bad for business. I'm not a little child, but you're doing fine, said Cass, sniffing. Here's an idea, said the jester. Are you sure it is not another jester you are looking for? I hear the King of France has a very funny fellow he has employed. His face clouded, and a lucky dog he still has his job. Cass shook her head. No, it's you. We've met before. I think we have. But it was different. You were older some of the time anyways. Oh, well, that explains it then, said the jester, brightening. You've simply come back too far. That is all. It may be that I will discover the secret tomorrow or next year, or not until I'm an old man. This society of yours may not arise for many moons after that. You just have to go home and come back again to my future. I'm not sure I can do that, said Cass, sadly. I don't even know if I can go home in the first place. Home. She wanted to go home now, desperately. Even if she was going home empty-handed, there was no sense in delaying any longer. It would only make the disappointment worse. But how? How was she supposed to go home? She was depending on Max Ernest to bring her back. But shouldn't he have done it by now? He made the antidote before. How hard is it to make it again? Or had it not really been that long? How much time had passed in her own world since she left? She had no way of knowing. Either it had been seconds or minutes or hours or years. In her real life, she could be 90 years old by now, for all she knew. Her friends and family might all be dead. She might not recognize her own home or even her own self. Max Ernest had warned her there might be problems like this. Why hadn't she listened? She, not the jester, was the true fool. By the time they heard the barking, it was too late. The regal beagles roused from their velvet pillows and made for once to work with their noses roast beef. They sniffed out the bandits' trail and led the king's soldiers directly to the campsite. The bandits had been taken by surprise. The man on watch had been drunk on mead. Cass gathered from Anastasia's cursing that they were outnumbered. Mead, which you have perhaps heard of without quite knowing what it is a sort of wine made of honey. Its organic origin date back to the earliest civilizations. It was very popular, for example, among the ancient Greeks. I would not try it if I were you, however. The legend of Beowulf, the Norse who was attacked by a monstrous Grendel, was famously drunken on mead. Apparently the mead greatly hindered them in battle, although it may have dulled the pain a little. Now the camp was surrounded and all the bandits had bayonets at their backs. The regal beagles circled watchfully as if they were herding sheep. Only the jester and Cass, about 40 feet from the campsite, remained free, unseen by the soldiers and yet unstiffened by the beagles. How proud you must feel, hounds catching your prize fox, cried Anastasia. By hounds you mean your mind. She's referring to the beagles, not the soldiers. As scornful as ever, she seemed oblivious to the fact that her throat could be cut at any second. Cass couldn't help admiring Anastasia's bravery under the pressure. I see the king needed only to send 100 of his best men to capture 10 thieves. And you call yourselves soldiers. Soldiers, yes, and trained killers, each of us. Tell us where the treasure is and we will make your death quick and easy. Declare a rather prominent soldier with thick gold braiding in his uniform and beard of sweat on his brow. Clearly the commander. If you lead us to the 2-foot-tall Deering of the homologist, we may even spare one or two of you. Lord Pharaoh has offered a big reward for his little monster. Come on, said the jester. The jester whispered urgently. Let's get out of here before they see us. He nodded in the direction of the nearest soldier, who was sniffing on his feet, purposely close to turning around or smelling us. The jester nodded towards the beagles, who were sniffing the ground suspiciously, as if they were just then catching the scent of the registered jester and the visible girl. What do you mean? We can't just leave them, Cass spluttered. Easy for you to say you're invisible. But that's just wrong. Why? Did the bandit queen command me to leave? Am I following her orders? Yeah, but she freed us from the dungeon, remember? She gave us her horse. We owe her our lives. Lent us the horse, you mean. Very grudgingly, I might add. I kind of thought you liked her. Liked her? Yeah, liked, said Cass, automatically raising her eyebrows to make the point, even though the jester could see them. Having a conversation when invisible is like talking to a blind person. You have to communicate everything with your voice. Liked. You mean that I liked her twice? But I don't like her even once. I loathe her thrice, protested the jester as he made no further movement towards leaving. It was clear Cass's word had taken an intended effect. Okay, go shell them, she said, going in the operation mode she had practiced so often with Max Ernest and the Trace Society. I'll try and see if I can untie anybody. And how do you expect me to do that? You know, go juggle, tell some jokes, or chase your tail or something. You're the jester, right? The jester opened his mouth to reply, but remained silent. He sensed Cass might have already gone. And while it was one thing to be perceived as talking to yourself, it was quite another to actually be doing it. He took a breath and then boldly stepped forward. Soldiers, salutation! A dozen closeted soldiers reeled around, drawing their swords, and beagles ran towards him in a pack, yipping madly. Who goes there? Shouted the commander. What? Who? Nobody, cried the jester, jumping to the fro and keeping beagles from striking their teeth in its ankles. I mean to say, 'tis I who go there. You see, here I go. The soldiers laughed, making men of the king's jester. More lately the king's prisoner, shouted a young soldier. And now he is a beagle's dinner. What happened, jester? Shouted another. Why did you reject our hospitality? It was the dungeon floor too hard for your liking? The food too cold? Oh, the floor was fine, the food too, said the jester offered, moving aside as the beagles were about to bite his shoe. Just the prison guards, their smell offended. You're a cocky one to joke when you are surrounded by many men, snarled the commander. Men? And yet you tie up a lady? The jester gestured towards Anastasia, who was shaking her head in disbelief. Evidently she didn't think the jester was helping her cause. No, do not worry, replied the commander. She will not be tied for long. It is only her head the king wants. We brought this plaster special. He raised his hand in the air as the young soldier ran to the silver platter, an instruction to bring back her head sitting on it. Perhaps there was room for yours as well. My head would be honored to be in such a noble company, but please do not face her towards me. I fear she will bite off my nose, if the beagles do not get to it first. The jester grinned at Anastasia, who glared back at him forcefully. Indeed, it looked as if she might bite the jester if she could.